I have the opportunity, Linda talked about it, but today's topic is govern for success. Because when a business starts to scale, the cracks don't show up in effort, they show up in structure. So as businesses grow, the number of people, processes, and platforms increases. And without clear internal structure, the result is often drag, misaligned expectations, duplicated efforts, overcomplicated tools, and a founder who's still the center of every major decision. That is where internal governance comes in, but not the corporate kind. This is about the other governance, the practical kind that gives a growing business the rhythm and clarity to make decisions faster, deliver projects with confidence, and align teams around real priorities. It's not about control, it's about traction. So, today, Deanne Earle will walk us through a practical framework that introduces the three overlooked layers of governance every scaling business needs: strategic direction, operational enablement, and initiative delivery. We'll explore how structure applied at the right level brings your people, systems, and leadership into alignment, especially when you're investing in technology or rolling out critical initiatives. And by the end of this session, you'll be able to spot where your projects are leaking effort and energy and where governance can free you up, and how to shift from reactive firefighting to confident, scalable delivery. I have the pleasure of introducing our host for today. Deanne Earle is the founder of Unlike Before and a seasoned expert in navigating complex projects and transformations. And with over 25 years of global experience leading technology and change programs, Deanne has seen firsthand that the biggest challenge in project success isn't the technology. It's the alignment of people, culture, systems, processes, and leadership. She works with conscious leaders who are ready to move beyond the noise and confusion, helping them restructure their project organizations so work aligns with strategy, delivery flows with clarity, and leadership feels grounded and confident. Today, she'll be sharing practical insights on using governance, not the stiff corporate kind, but a more dynamic approach that creates rhythm, clarity, and momentum. Her goal is to help you get your projects unstuck, your teams moving forward, and your organization closer to that all-important sweet spot, certainty. So I'm going to let Deanne take it away. This is a interactive, she's going to speak, but we're going to work on our workbook. So I'm going to put a link in the chat of the slides that she's using, because you are going to be able to take notes while she's talking, so that we can go along with this, and then we'll be able to answer any questions in once she finishes up her presentation. So I'm going to put that in the chat. Everybody get that downloaded so you can take your notes and take it away.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Amanda. Brilliant. Thanks so much too for that fabulous introduction. Now I've got now I've got quite a big pedestal to sit up straight on, and hopefully share some golden insights to the participants that are here with us today. So thanks for that. While you're doing the downloading, I'm just going to share my screen for you. If I can just get that organized and make sure that that's where it needs to be. Whoops, let me just sort that out. Something's gone horribly wrong, of course, as it does with tech. You never know what little tech gremlins are going to hit you at the last minute. So let me do this. Okay, and hopefully everyone can see my screen. Let me just go into presentation mode. And hopefully that's all good to go. I realize it's in portrait, but that's because the practical field guide is in portrait as a PDF, and it will make a little bit more sense as we go through and you start filling out or checking the boxes as we go. So if we're ready to go, hopefully people have got started to get the guide. I think there's another link if anyone's having any problems registering and just wants to get straight to the PDF. Amanda can share that as well. But if you can register, that would be great. But if you can't, then Amanda can share the PDF download. So let me go ahead and you'll see how things progress as we go forward. So as Amanda said, this whole session is around governing for success. And this is my practical field guide. So whether you're stabilizing or scaling, I'm going to share with you today this practical framework that I use with the leaders or in all of the companies that of all sizes that I work with. And I use that with them to help them create and embed a structure that actually frees people up rather than bogging them down and creating more bureaucracy. And how you can use it. So what we're going to cover here today is how you can use it to turn your time, teams, and tech into momentum that will support you in whichever way it is that you want to scale, whether you're stabilizing or scaling. So this is, as it says, a practical field guide. I like to work with conscious leaders who want better decisions, smarter delivery, and real traction. So let's move on here and see what goods we've got. I think one of the big things is that to be aware of is that when it comes to governing for success, is that you've made an investment, your goals are clear, your team's growing, and your projects are underway to get whatever it is that you need in place, tech, systems, processes, people, whatever it might be. However, you're still answering every single question, and you're wondering why priorities keep shifting without warning, why projects are dragging when they should be flying, people have what they need, why aren't things moving forward in a way that makes sense? And ultimately, it's not a people problem. It's not necessarily even a systems problem. It's actually usually a structure problem. And the fix isn't more meetings or more bureaucracy. So when your tech investments are getting made without direction, your delivery feels reactive instead of strategic, and you're still the one holding all the decisions, then you're more likely to be having friction than you are growth. So this guide matters because when I talk about governance, I'm not meaning or talking about more board meetings and compliance checklists. What I'm talking about and what I mean are the structures that support your strategy and lead to clarity. So in this session, I'm going to talk more about the other kind of governance, the governance that brings clarity of alignment, flow, and confidence at every level. This governance enables traction, not red tape. It's not just policy, it's momentum. And the whole thing here that I focus on is to out with friction and in with clarity of direction, clarity in execution, and clarity in responsibility, accountability, and ownership. So this guide matters because, as I said, I'm focusing on the other kind of governance, structure for your growth, aligning your technology, and leading with clarity. And I think here it's good for all of us to start thinking about where our decisions are getting stuck or keep getting stuck. And we need to think about who owns what decision, what's always being re-explained, and where is there noise instead of clarity. So these are some of the things that we're going to be looking at as we go forward. And this would be the first seed I'm planting and starting to water for you to think about as we go through here. Okay. Whoops, apologies. So scaling or growth or extension or expansion, whichever term you want to talk about or use, and in whichever way you're thinking about it, whatever it means to you, It will fail without structure. And therefore, you find that you come to a breaking point of growth. And with that, teams are often doing the same job, but in different ways. Projects are drifting without any real accountability. You seem to be the linchpin or the focus point and having to answer everything yourself. Technology is solving the wrong problems or none of the problems. It's not delivering what you want it to give you. And your priorities keep shifting without explanation or alignment. So they just keep moving, bouncing around all over the place. And this is what scaling without structure can look like. So you've probably felt or may have felt at least one of these in the last 6 months, 4 months, 1 month, yesterday, this morning, whenever it was. These things are happening constantly. So my question to you is, which one of these do you feel most often? And where is decision making inconsistent or unclear right now? And most importantly, do you know what that's costing you? Because it will have a cost. It might be intangible, but it will have a cost. So again, some things to be pondering here. And so here's my case for the other kind of governance. Now here, I have a statistic to share with you. So in 2023, PwC did their corporate directors survey. They do these annually, as far as I'm aware, and apologies, my statistic is a couple of years old, but I don't think it will have changed very much given what I see with the clients I work with. And in this survey, PwC found that while 70% of board members say they spend enough time on technology when they're having their discussions or investments in technology or anything around initiatives around technology and digital transformation, only 24% found that the materials they receive from their management is effective. So that suggests to me that it's not a technology problem and it's not a visibility problem. It's actually a structural problem. And the kind of governance that amplifies outcomes isn't about oversight. It's about alignment and connecting the dots. It's not the kind of governance that slows things down with process or bureaucracy. It's the kind that clears the path so that things can move. And what this statistic also suggests to me is that there's a real gap in the structure rather than in the effort. So while leaders are paying attention to the information, the message they're getting either isn't landing or it's not what they need. And this is where governance, the other kind of governance that I'm talking about, becomes really essential. Not so much compliance as corporate governance is, but as a structure. So you can connect the work that's going on in your company and in your projects and in your business to your strategy so that you can ensure that the delivery of those projects and those activities and those initiatives supports the direction that you want your business to head in, and to bring real clarity to what could potentially be chaos. So let's just remember too, when we're talking about structure, that leadership is an action and excellence is a decision. So when you're leading people, you need to be acting, but excellence is a choice. And if you want to be excellent at what you're doing and how your business is running, then you need to make the decision to be that way. So it's a really interesting statistic, this one, and it's quite out of whack with where I think, in general terms, the market would be led to believe, or we would be led to believe, how boards of directors or corporate directors are thinking about technology and technology initiatives, and digital transformation being one of the buzzwords of recent times. Okay, now there are three layers of a scaling structure when it comes to governance. And these layers, in the way that I describe them, and I think brings quite a good clarity between them, is that there is governance at the strategic direction level, corporate governance. Where are we going? What are we investing in? What's our strategy? What's our direction? Then we have operational operational enablement. My mouth isn't working this evening, sorry. So how do we actually deliver the stuff that we want to achieve and deliver it at scale? So not just individual initiatives, but extrapolate those out. And then our initiative delivery, what's actually happening on the ground in our companies, in our teams, in our organization, and does it match what we need at the other levels? So misalignment can happen between any of those governance layers. And these three layers only function when the three key enablers or pillars are in play. And those are people and culture, systems and processes, and leadership and management. Because it's not just about where the work is done or how the work is done, it's also about how decisions flow between those layers and how that communication works. Now, keep those three pillars or key enablers in mind, because they're going to be coming back and making an appearance later on. I think here again, it's another opportunity for each of you to think, in my environment, in my team, in my company, in my operational activities, and whatever I'm trying to do right now, if I give a quick gut response, which layer is the weakest or disconnected or most dependent on me or you today? Which one's causing me the most challenges, or which one is am I having the most troubles with, or which one is the weakest, or which one do I have to make the most interventions with? So this will come back in a few moments. And what I would like you to do, if you've got the PDF, is to take an opportunity on this page, give it a minute, think about your gut, and where is your disconnect right now? Because even strong businesses struggle here, and the cost comes about through delays to decision making and delivery of activities being in a fog. People are kind of running around doing what they're supposed to be doing, but perhaps not really getting anywhere. I liken it to swimming through mud. I'm swimming as hard as I can, but the mud's really thick and I can't get anywhere. Liken it to quicksand. So take a minute and assess this, and just give some thought to this traffic light system. Is your strategic direction, operational enablement, and initiative delivery working well? Do they need work, or are they misaligned? Because these can indicate where you're burning energy or burning effort that's not serving you at all or getting you anywhere. And this is also then where structure can help unlock or unblock that flow and make things move in a better way, in a more gain a better momentum. So if you've had a moment to tick the box or had a think, we'll move on to the next section. Because really, you don't necessarily need another meeting, but you will always need a sound structure. And you'll only get a sound structure if you can replace the noise with clarity, because this is where your structure can start to leak, and you don't always see it in your plan or see it in the activities going on, but you can sense, you can feel it and smell it in the air, in the tension between your teams, some conflict over priorities, chaos or bureaucracy of too many meetings and not enough action, not enough activity. And then what happens? Well, we can go round the roundabout. Your expectations get misaligned, your processes slow down, your costs creep up, things take longer, costs escalate, your delivery of your project starts to delay, drift, doesn't stay on track, and that can cause problems with your clients. It can cause problems with your employees, with your clients, with your other people who are feeling those results that you're not quite as organized as you think you are, and they start to second guess what's going on. So while this page names the symptoms, they aren't necessarily random, and they're, as I said, the result of this misalignment, and they will show up fast when your governance is missing or ineffective. So if you're always spending time resetting expectations, you're always chasing updates, or you're never quite sure if that update smells right, or you're having to smooth over things, or make things better for people or increase their understanding, that's really not a people issue, but it certainly is a structure issue. So I'm going to now take you into something that's a little bit more in depth about the layers of governance and what that means, because good governance connects the work to the strategy. Okay, good governance flows. It doesn't stack on top of each other and build up layers and things like that. It flows naturally. And this model shows how those different levels of governance need to connect up, down, across, around, all over the place. And when this isn't effective, as we've seen, your misalignment takes off, your confusion amplifies, your delivery is often the result of heroic efforts rather than a natural flow despite the situation. And so strategic direction, which we talked about earlier, is usually around this corporate governance and where you're going. The operational enablement is how do we go about delivering? And then in your, let's say, in your project organization or in your initiatives that you're investing in, and that's your governance of your project management or your initiatives or how you're structuring your operational enablement. And then in your governance of your individual initiatives and your initiative delivery, what's actually happening. Now, the glue here is your stewardship role. And the steward plays an essential role, stewarding the structure, not just running the meetings, ticking the box, checking the checklist, filing the reports, those sorts, counting the metrics. They're really also ensuring that the structure you have in place is fit for purpose and making the adjustments necessary as you're growing, as you're scaling, as you're developing, as you're moving forward. If something doesn't work or is no longer was working and now you've grown to a point where it doesn't serve you anymore, that needs to change. So your steward becomes a stewardship role becomes a key aspect there. Now that, and the glue. So now that could be a director, it could be leader of a team, it could be someone in a sponsorship role, but whoever is owning the glue needs to ensure that the work that's getting done connects to your strategy. And then what you'll notice is, excuse me, I've got an itchy nose. What you'll notice is that the businesses that execute well have three things working in sync. It's not just a plan, but the appropriate people, the appropriate systems, and the appropriate leadership energy is holding it all together. And so now I've got one of the things here is just a clarity check for you again, is where perhaps are your decisions or your initiatives or your roles and responsibilities, where are they perhaps drifting or a little bit confused? And what I've got for you in the next 3 pages is some check-ins where you can assess how well your structure is supporting your decision-making, execution, and alignment across your business. And the real question for you to think about here, as a result of these check-in next 3 pages, is where are your layers disconnected, and which layer is weakest or most dependent on you? So again, we have the strategic level and the operational enablement and the initiative delivery. So let's go forward to the clarity check-in. Now this is about governance in motion. And so here what I'd like you to do is take a few minutes on this, or a minute on the strategic direction page. There are 3. And assess how well your structure is supporting your decision making. So tick the box that best reflects how things are working for you today. You can tick yes, that's green, it's working well. Somewhat, it happens, but not consistently. Or no, it's completely missing or it's unclear. So 3 questions. Our strategic goals translate into clear business priorities. Our investment decisions are aligned with those priorities, and everyone understands how their work connects to the big picture. Yes, somewhat, or no. Because depending on which ones you tick as yes, somewhat, or no, this will help you identify where your structure is leaking energy, leaking effort, leaking cost, etc. And misalignment doesn't show up all at once. It drips in, so it will come and go. And it could also depend on the initiative. It could depend on the activity that's taking place. It may change as well. But certainly in strategic direction, these are the 3 areas that I'd like you to think about. On the next page, we have operational enablement. So again, same 3 things. Yes, somewhat, no. My systems and processes support clarity and flow. We have regular rhythms for sharing information, decision-making, and adjusting plans. And operational decisions are made consistently and transparently. That's operational enablement. Then in our initiative delivery, we have projects are triggered to support strategic outcomes. So we don't trigger things and invest in projects or take action or initiatives and things that don't align with our strategic direction. Everyone knows who owns what and what success looks like. Our roles and responsibilities are clear, accountabilities are transparent, and we're all heading down the same road for the same outcome. And when issues are raised, they're resolved without friction or delay. So when something comes up, we deal with it, make a decision, move on. And this is where the gold starts to come out, because where are your somewhats or no boxes showing up the most? Because that then is your signal that your alignment is not very strong, and that a sound structure can help actually restore that traction and motion. So if everyone's had a chance to think about that and tick a box or not, whichever works for you. You might be throwing up some things that you're thinking, oh dear, I really don't want to tick that box, but I probably have to. I'm going to give you a real world case snapshot of a client that I worked with a few years ago, where they had a project chaos. Their project was in chaos and the situation was in crisis, and the client was actually pulling out the contract to starting to think about taking their software vendor to court because they weren't achieving what they had been led to believe they would achieve in a way that they would achieve, and they wanted to swap out the people, and they were thinking about how they could get out of the contract. So this situation was quite chaotic and in crisis. The budget was out. People were blocked or heading in the wrong direction and towards the wrong goal. The delivery was all over the place. Relationships were fractious. And as I said, they were ready to bring in the lawyers. Now, I was brought in by another organisation who I had been involved with in the past, and they said, Deanne, help. We need you to come in and sort this out. And my first day in with that end client, I was on site at the customer site, thrown in the deep end in a week long of workshops, trying to figure out what was going on and what needed to happen to resolve the situation. So what we didn't do was add meetings. What we did do was reset the expectations, the decision ownership and cadence. And when we did that, once we'd done that, everything changed. So the problem actually wasn't the people, the processes, or the technology. It was the misalignment and the wrong conversations. People were talking about the wrong things, and they were talking about them with the wrong set of eyes. So it sounds funny to say talking about them with the wrong set of eyes, but they were talking about things but not seeing what needed to really be done. And the governance that we implemented or put in place or established brought all of those things back on track and set the way forward and the rhythm in motion for a stronger way forward. So what we did was we stood up a clear governance framework, quickly clarified the owners and responsibilities, and we aligned with the senior management to make sure that we had them fully engaged in this situation. It also helped that the client realized that they needed to make some people changes, and they brought in some much stronger, more experienced people, and working with them was like night and day. So we were very lucky on that score, but we were also clear about what needed to be done. So we asked some really challenging questions and had some decisions made, which made a big breakthrough. So what we ended up with was that trust was rebuilt. They signed additional statements of work and spent more money. Their strategic focus for the program of work that we're involved with was completely restored. We knew exactly how it needed to relate to their other activities that they had going on in their program. Financials were completely transparent, so they knew what was being spent, where, why, how, why they had to spend more, why they didn't have to spend more, et cetera, et cetera. And the decision making was all completely informed. So they only were asked to make decisions on things that they needed to make decisions on. And it was very clear. So it was a really good outcome. It could have been quite different, but thankfully it was a good outcome. So again, given the previous assessments that you've been looking at, are there any particular parts of your business that you think would actually benefit from this kind of reset, or a reset along these kinds of lines that would really shift your business, or shift your team, or shift your initiatives forward at a rate of knots without, all the bureaucracy and meetings and all sorts of other things that you're trying to put in place that are let's say, typical in a project environment. So it's quite a good thing to again have in your mind and think about. So then, what could be some fast wins for structured growth or structured change, or just structure effectively? Well, there are some pretty good ones, and the really first ones are a big lesson is that you don't have to do a full overhaul of absolutely everything all at once to start seeing some really good sound results. So these 5 actions on their own will create some fast clarity and help build the foundation so that you can make smarter decisions and you can have a faster delivery and you can improve the traction as you scale. So you could do any one of these first. You could do more than one. You could do all of them. But I think the important thing is that you're really clear about which area is the weakest, most disconnected, or most dependent on you today, and start there. Because if you could only fix one of them, which one would you target? And what would shift exponentially if you only fixed that one? You can start small, and just one of these will make a huge difference this week, because then this is how structure becomes your strategic advantage. Again, you don't have to solve everything. You just need to shift one piece of friction into flow and then move on to another one. So here's the challenge for you. If you were only going to pick one, which one would it be? And if you're only going to action one of them this week, which one would you commit to? Mapping who owns what, having clarity around your decisions, roles, and responsibilities, creating regular review schedules, so setting cadences, clarifying your non-negotiables, where in your environment around productivity, performance, and success are you missing out, or are you not certain about? So where is your certainty missing so that you can protect and improve your productivity, performance, and success? Could you simplify reporting? And then how do you make sure that the software and tools and things that you're implementing or using actually tie back to your business needs or your business targets, that you've got a real return on investment and real decisions being made? Because if the technology or tools that you're using don't support what your business needs, then they're a little bit redundant. They're not doing their work. So if there's one thing that you'd commit to actioning this week, which one would it be? I'll leave that with you to think about while we go on to the leadership levers. Now, your leadership levers are confidence, credibility, and competence, because you need those to lean forward. Otherwise, you're going sideways. So if you have your confidence, then you've got your feeling of self-assurance, and you're comfortable with your own abilities or qualities. And there are some strategies here to be able to build confidence, build your credibility, and build your competence. Because governance isn't outside of leadership, it is leadership. And these three leaders shape your culture and your clarity and your delivery of your initiatives that you're investing in. So without those, you're struggling. So these are the strategies that you could, some strategies that you could deploy to increase your confidence, your credibility, and your competence. And again, I would challenge you to think about which one is costing you the most now and what would change if it wasn't costing you, if you had more confidence or had increased your credibility or your competence levels were higher than they are now. So again, lots of things to think about here. But I'd just like quickly to go on to, because I realize that want to have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. So I'm going to move through the next things a little bit more quickly. But this is, certainty is the sweet spot, because when you govern well, you're not just managing delivery, you're creating certainty in those three areas: productivity, performance, and success. And so this model, which I call my unlike before genius model, is the structure across people, systems, and leadership, which enables the performance at every level of your business. And it provides you that structure within which to operate. So you want certainty around what's being done, when, by whom, and how, and that what's coming out the other end delivers not only what you expect, but what you need, particularly what your business needs. And so having worked all around the world with lots of different organizations and lots of different industry sectors with lots of different tech, and I'm not a technologist, I'm a business person. Other people do the tech. I manage them to make sure the delivery is right. So having done all of that, I know that when these three main things, people and culture, systems and processes, leadership and management, are missing or are out, then you are not certain about what's going on. Your certainty is missing. And if you don't have the right people and culture and systems and processes sorted out, it's going to impact your productivity, which in turn flows into your goals and priorities are confused, your operational efficiencies are affected, and your bottom line is hit. Likewise, systems and processes, leadership and management, when they're out, your performance suffers, which affects your quality of outcomes. Sustainable change change can't be sustained, and your communications and relationships are compromised. Leadership and management with people and culture, if those aren't in or those are out, then you're having problems succeeding, which has those flow-on implications. And when they are in, the whole thing is completely reversed. And so what would it be like if you were in that sweet spot and had that certainty? What would having that certainty mean in the short term? And could you imagine what that might be like 12, 6, or even 3 months down the line? So I challenge you again, tick the areas that are working for you right now, and what's the impact of the ones that are not. But I will tell you that if you can't tick people and culture, systems and processes, and leadership and management, then the rest will not be working. I've seen it too many times to know that that's not true. So governance isn't about control, it's about traction. And so let's pretend then that we're 12 months down the line, or you're 3 years down the line, or whatever it is, and you wanted to be exit ready. What would you solve first? Because a governance foundation that flexes without you means that you would be able to exit or move on or do something else or expand or open another 10 branches or whatever it might be, and the business would continue operating in the way that it needs to support that growth or that expansion or that scale, whatever scaling means to you. And then your teams would be self-sufficient as well. Okay. So really, to close, and then we can, I think, have some questions, if there are any, is really think of governance as a way, or governing for success as using a structure where that structure becomes your strategic advantage. Because once you've got that in place, and you don't always need more control, but you probably do need better traction. And governance is leverage. It's not overhead. It doesn't have to be overhead. Often it can be an overhead, but it doesn't have to be. It's really a way to help you lead in a smarter way. And the right kind of governance in the right place will give you that and give you much better traction. So yes, you need corporate governance for compliance. You also need the other kind of governance as an underlying structure so you can scale. So what I'd really like to say is thank you so much for your attention. And I hope that this has been useful and valuable and making you think a little bit in perhaps a slightly different way.